So what is going on, guys? This is Ryan here.
And this is other Ryan here.
And welcome, guys, to a really special video. So if you actually go on scottgames.com right now, you'll be greeted to something very awesome.
Yeah, you'll see Enad's face and a little party hat with a fluffy thing on the top with the date. That is most likely the release date of Five Nights at Freddy's sister location.
Yeah, that's it, guys. I think the date for this game has now been set as the 7th of October, 2016. And when you think about that, that is, as of recording this video, only 5 weeks away now. We're only that far away from discovering all of the mysteries behind this game, and we're going to learn all about the things sister location has to offer.
The first thing that Scott actually posted up was a darkened version of Enad. It was like in the background, and you had to brighten up the image in order to see the release date. But then he updated again, and I think this is when he put in the map layout, which is actually in the source code.
Yes, and that's a very interesting thing we're going to be covering very soon. But first, there's a few things we need to really talk about as to why would Scott choose to show Enad's face, for example, and not Baby's?
Obviously, we know Baby to be the front runner-up in the trailer. She's in the center.
Yes.
Usually things in the center catches your eye, draws your attention, so she was put in the center for a very good reason. But it seems like this Enad is going for like a, almost like a puppet kind of feel, like it's the master behind everything almost.
Yeah, you've got to think, why would Scott choose to put Enad over Baby? Another point is that the place is called Circus Baby's Pizza World, so
yeah,
that as well is another point proving that Baby is meant to be the running face for this new establishment. But Scott's showing us Enad. We had a teaser of Enad before, and it seemed to show loads of tentacles and things like that. It seemed like lots of loose wiring. Yeah. And it's interesting now because originally this looked like a scrapped concept, and I guess we can go back to thinking how we did before when we said this guy was probably one of the first creations for this place, and eventually he was scrapped. He has the most history here, so that's why I think he may have the most importance.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously a lot of you might be thinking, you know, this could just be Scott putting in a random character with a party hat to celebrate the release date, but we all know that Scott doesn't do things unintentional.
Exactly, and the fact that as well we've got the Enad mask in our room, this kind of mirrors it in a way because that also has the party hat too.
Yeah.
Maybe this thing is going to have some form of deeper significance. I mean, coming to think of it, wouldn't it be absolutely horrific if Enad actually starts out with no face and eventually claims the face back from your office?
Damn. Yeah.
And that's how you know Enad's actually visited. You've had this like crazy wire-like monster come in and out without you even being aware, and he's taken back his mask.
Yeah, I think there's a lot behind this character. Maybe there's a lot behind each character, as we know from the trailer. You don't know what we've been through and all of that stuff. If you actually go into the source code, as we said before, Scott actually put in numbers. At first, they just looked like, what are these? He's put one in the first line and then one in the fourth line as well. Now, if you actually put these together after scottgames.com / then put these codes .jpeg, you actually come up with this map.
Yes, and this is probably the most interesting thing about this, and it's interesting why Scott chose to tease this as the priority over the map, for example, because I thought the map would have been more important, but he's wanted this to be more of a secret because it did take a few hours before it was actually figured out, but it's a really cool design for the map, and it really makes you think, how is this game going to play when you start to see everything? Yeah,
the layout's like it's like a cross almost, a very strange cross, but like I believe we must start in the elevator. I think that's but then we have these narrow hallways. Don't know if those are like vents or what, or I don't know. The layout is very weird. It's like how are we meant to escape certain animatronics? Like, are we going to be in different rooms each night, or are we going to have to run through each rooms? I don't know how it's going to work, but it will be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, in fact, because originally we thought the vents would lead us to, for example, Bellora's place and like the Funtime place, but now we kind of see these what could either be the kind of ventilation system we have to run through the vents, or it could just be kind of longer hallways. Because looking at things, we've got the control module, and that appears to kind of show us Bellora's gallery and then the Funtime auditorium, and then we've got to walk along somewhere else to get to the circus control panel and control that area of the place as well.
And then we have the circus gallery, which is obviously where the animatronics are going to be kept. We don't know if these animatronics obviously come to each of these rooms. They must do, to be fair, actually, but it's very strange. But if you actually brighten up this image by the Funtime auditorium, you will see 2 secret rooms.
Yes, and I immediately thought this was really interesting why they would be next to the Funtime auditorium as opposed to anywhere else, because we do in fact know that the Funtime characters are based off of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Gang, and this is where the 2 secret rooms are, and also the parts and services right on this one as well.
Oh god, yeah. Well, I don't know, it's very strange, this whole thing, but like we never know how this thing's going to play out, but it all makes sense when we actually get into the game. Maybe it will be a little bit confusing, but I think with this certain layout it will be horrifying and very suspenseful.
Personally, I think that the way this is going to work is that we're going to have each of these characters almost put in their own separate areas. Maybe the performance we saw in the trailer isn't how they're actually going to be. They're not going to be on stage. So in the circus gallery, we might actually have only Baby there, and there might be maybe the small baby-like things that we saw before that were clinging onto her in the posters. Maybe those guys will interact. And then in the Ballora gallery, again, there was loads of the Balloras in the background. These must be like the smaller ones. And something interesting I noticed as well was that in the previous teaser featuring Ballora, when it says get back on your stage now, if you actually look next to it, there is something called the breaker room. And a breaker room is generally like a code name for somewhere like an electrical room where all of the mains and things like that will be kept. So perhaps when Ballora escapes off of this podium, she will in fact go into the breaker room and maybe turn off all of the lights and things in this establishment, making you unable to defend yourself.
Yeah, because as we know in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, if the goal was to pretty much keep the doors closed, I guess, but try and maintain power. Now with this, obviously we've got an unlimited source of power, but our goal is most likely to stop the animatronics from destroying the power.
Yes.
So basically, like, obviously, if they destroy the breaker room and the electrics go out, all the doors are going to fly up and they're all going to run at you and you're pretty much going to die.
And the problem with that as well, I've just thought about, is if the breaker room is sabotaged, how the heck are you supposed to get back in that elevator and go up?
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps there's like going to be a scenario where maybe it might be unavoidable, where maybe Enad will be able to crawl through and pass either the Ballora gallery or the Funtime one from the parts and service, and then we have to run maybe to the circus control through the ventilation system to avoid him.
Oh god, yeah. Well, either way, it's going to be absolutely insane, and I can't wait to play this game.
The next thing now we're going to talk about in a little more depth is the Funtime Auditorium, the 2 secret rooms, and also the parts and service. So what I actually want to start by saying is the fact that this room is called the Auditorium. What that actually refers to is a building with seating for people to actually watch the performance, and that really throws the fact that was the news clipping that we saw maybe the end of Sister Location, because I mean if we're actually playing in the original establishment, that would make sense for that then to be called the Auditorium.
Well, it is very strange if that is the case, why Scott would choose to leak the ending of the game.
Yeah.
But then again, what could possibly happen is rather than actually, because we know Scott likes to go back in time between nights, he could go forward through time like he did in FNAF 3. So we see what's happening, them taking out the animatronics, maybe something happens after that he doesn't want to show us, but we have to find out.
Of course, yeah, that could definitely be another solution to as to why he's actually showing that. A second thing as well I want to point out is why the parts and service room is particularly linked to the Funtime Auditorium, because we've almost became used to a parts and service linking to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Yeah. And this room is linked directly to the Funtime Auditorium, which we've said before is only the original Five Nights at Freddy's gang to our knowledge so far.
The parts and services room, I think, if linking back to the images we saw, it's got to be the one with the I believe you see the little heads in the bottom left-hand corner, and I think I'm not sure if there's TVs in that room. I think there's a mask of Enad there as well, but I think there's going to be certain things we've got to do in each room to kind of get away each of the animatronics. So maybe like in the Funtime Auditorium, we've got to keep the lights on or something like that. I don't know.
Yes.
But then we get error messages maybe saying, oh, you need to go over there to this room now to stop Enad from destroying the place. It's going to be insane.
And another thing as well you've got to think about is on the Funtime Auditorium stage, we've only really seen Freddy, the small Bonnie puppet, and also Foxy. So what about if in the parts and service there is going to be some kind of very disformed version of Chica that never quite made it to the Funtime version?
Yeah, that would be pretty insane, obviously, because you got the 2 rooms there as well, because there could be like multiple, like there could be like a mangle maybe as well, or a puppet. That would be very strange. I don't know why Scott chose to actually blank out these secret rooms. We know that every room that's not on the layout is actually a safe room, but this could be different this time around.
Exactly, because this one is Circus Baby's Pizza World and not actually the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza establishment. Yeah. It's just, what makes this insanely interesting is why these rooms are blanked out and why Scott would still choose to show us them now. Like, these rooms that are darkened, Scott's made us have to brighten this image again to properly see them, which means that these darkened rooms, which initially can't be seen on the map if you take a quick glance, they must have some weight to them. And I mean, if Enad's in one of them, that still leaves another room completely untouched, and it just leads to question, what the heck is behind there or in there?
Exactly, and they're roughly the same size as the parts and services room, so these rooms are going to be pretty big, to be fair.
Exactly, so who knows what's really going to be in there. As I said before, if Enad's in one of those rooms, there's still another one left untouched. So maybe there might even be like Balloon Boy, because that's a character with literally no story to it at all. And it does look very similar to a Funtime character.
Yeah, definitely. That would be awesome.
And then the final thing as well, I'm just going to add, just to top this off, is if you actually look at the map in the elevator section, you can see what appears to be a small square centralized in the middle. Perhaps that's Scott's way of saying this is where you begin, because if you look at this small square could move from room to room, and that would make sense as like a way for us to know if we actually forget in like a tense moment where exactly we are in the establishment. And I think that would make for a very interesting fact that maybe we can go back to the elevator for something if everything goes all wrong.
Yeah, maybe there's like an emergency shutdown button in the elevator where you can, if all else fails, you can quickly go in there. That's if you make it in time. Maybe it's one of those where you got a time limit to get back there, and if you don't, you're pretty much dead.
That could make things a lot more difficult, especially another way the elevator could work, which I think would be really cool, is if, for example, when the time ticked over to 6 a.m., rather than just the night completely ending and you have to kind of almost be forced into this relieved state during that time before you might get a mini game or a cutscene, maybe at 6 a.m. this time, the power simply cuts off, leaves you sitting in the office, and then you have to make your own way back to the elevator in your own time. So perhaps you could actually explore around this place after 6 a.m., look at the different characters back on their stage and things like that, and then when you get back in the elevator to go up, that's how you end the night.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And there we have it, guys. So that was a very, very in-depth look at all of the different things on scottgames.com currently, and also the secret teaser image showing the map layout. Very, very exciting stuff. And if Scott's showing us all of this 5 weeks before the release, I mean, who knows what he's going to show us next? Something of more importance to the story. We might see a familiar face. Only time will tell.
Yeah, there's no knowing with Scott, but if you guys did enjoy this video, why not leave a like rating down below? And if you're new to the channel, why not subscribe for more Scott Games teasers and also some indie games?
Exactly. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. We, of course, hope you did enjoy. And we will, of course, see you on the next one.
Goodbye, guys.
Want to see even more content from us?
Consider liking and subscribing to ensure you'll see all content in the foreseeable future.
And hey, why not check out our past 2 videos?